Geoff Lewis is on the line with us, but before we take it across to Geoff, let's quickly take it across to my colleague Mubina Kapasi. Mubina, just the pros and the cons, how critical is the G20 meet?
Well, critical it is, but more than that, it's also interesting because we're going to be having several political leaders actually facing each other for the first time after several events that have transpired over the last couple of weeks. First up, of course, Donald Trump and Xi Jinping, the first time that they are going to come face to face amidst the context of the heightened trade tensions. Remember, $500 billion worth of products on which Trump has either already imposed tariffs or is going to impose tariffs. Second up, it's going to be crowned Saudi Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Do remember, it's in the midst of him being castigated by most of the world after the very controversial killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi in the Saudi embassy in Turkey. Thirdly, Euro leaders as well as American leaders are going to be meeting. Remember, transatlantic tensions are at their heights. Donald Trump has withdrew from a lot of key trade deals that had been signed by his predecessors. So that's going to be an interesting face-to-face as well. And finally, Vladimir Putin. Remember that recently there was a heightened Russian aggression in Ukraine, in the Crimea territory. So in the midst of that, we're going to have Vladimir Putin as well make an appearance. Donald Trump, in fact, is apparently said to have cancelled his meeting with Vladimir Putin on the back of that. So yes, what should we watch out for? First up, Trump's heightened tariff rhetoric. Like I said, he's already imposed tariffs on $260 billion worth of goods. It's another $267 billion that he is mulling. Secondly, NAFTA has been kicked out. It's the new US-Mexico-Canada agreement that has taken its place. Thirdly, a 40% slump in crude since the recent peaks, and not just crude, but across commodity prices. And finally, of course, the rebuke for Prince Salman on the Khashoggi murder. So some key questions that I think I would like to pose at this point of time is, will Trump and Xi have a conciliatory tone? Because we are staring at these heightened tariffs. Like I said, $250 billion already imposed. Another 267 is what he's going to bring up. That's at least the threat at this point of time if the tariffs, if the talks are not good. We also have the call on auto tariffs next week that Donald Trump is going to take, which is going to hurt both China as well as European Union. So yes, the question will be, will Trump be able to diffuse these trade tensions? Secondly, will these countries discuss internet or intellectual property protection and internet control, especially in the midst of China, which has time and again been accused of intellectual property theft? Thirdly, will he pause on tariffs on car imports from the EU? Because do remember, it's one of the key revenue generators for the European Union, car exports to the United States. So that's not going to bode well for them. And finally, do remember, the world has sort of rebuked Mohammed bin Salman post the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. It's only Donald Trump, in his usual unpredictable manner, who has lent support to the Crown Prince. So will he as well come under pressure and perhaps consider a different strategy when it comes to dealing with Saudi, given the fact that the very delicate issue of oil as well is hanging in the thread?
Okay. Mubina, thanks very much. That's a fairly comprehensive roundup of what to expect over the course of the next 24 hours. Let's discuss that and more with Geoff Lewis, Senior Strategist, MAM Macro Strategy, as well as research at Manulife Asset Management. Geoff, it's great to have you on the show. Thanks very much for taking out the time. First up, yes, it's advantage US. You just look at what the Dow has done this year and what the Shanghai Index has done, and you get a sense that it's advantage the US stepping into these trade talks. But his most recent comment of saying whether he doesn't know, if he's keen on a deal, what do you take away from that? Geoff, is my voice reaching you?
Sorry, there's no sound coming through. The line is gone.
No. Okay. Can you, are you responding to my audio? I just want to double check that. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, but not very clearly, but the sound just vanished.
Okay, let me try this once again. What are you expecting from the G20 with regards to the US and China inking a trade deal, a new trade deal?
Well, I think there has to be a truce called between Xi Jinping and Donald Trump with regard to import tariffs. I think that will be a minimum that the market will be looking for, and then a framework for discussions. We know that it's in China's interest to open up the economy further. That's the position they've taken. And I think it's in nobody's interest now to see these tariffs sustained or even increased, because that will be a negative shock for China when it's seeing some downward pressure on the economy from financial deleveraging, and the property sector might weaken a bit next year. But also the same applies to the US. Growth is in the process now of slowing a bit as the fiscal stimulus wears off. So it's in neither party's interest, really, to continue into an all-out trade war. So that is what markets are really looking for, recognition of the economic realities by the two politicians.
Geoff, do you think the Chinese have an edge, or the edge clearly is with Americans, and Chinese will have to negotiate, and they will have to negotiate now and perhaps agree to the terms what Donald Trump and company would dictate?
I don't think either side has an edge, actually. I think that from China's side, they're trying to stabilize the economy. They have seen strong exports so far, but that's probably front-running ahead of the tariffs. Exports are clearly likely to slow down in the first half of next year. So I think that the conciliatory tones we've seen from China on some of these issues probably reflect their recognition that they're not actually in such a strong position as some analysts make out.
Aside of Xi Jinping, Geoff, there are other tricky situations as well, or relations rather. You've got tariff on car imports from EU. There's also talk that perhaps after Jamal Khashoggi's murder, Trump may withdraw support for Mohammed bin Salman. How do you think these equations are going to play out?
Well, I think these are difficult issues. We've seen that President Trump is not willing to criticize Saudi Arabia or abandon them as an ally. So, and yet Congress is wanting to express some kind of sanction or as withdrawing support from the Saudi conflict in Yemen. So I think that's a difficult issue, but at the same time, it's not one of the major economic issues for the G20 to consider.
Right. You know, I just want to understand the market reaction because there has been a bit of a relief rally in expectation of a trade deal, in expectation that, you know, the growth slowdown concerns may be overdone, in expectation that the Fed may not really pause, but go a bit slow on rate hikes into 2019 and be more market friendly. What is your own assessment of the big headline from a market perspective that may come out of the G20?
Well, I think we are seeing a change of heart at the Fed, and that's been reflected in quite a significant revision of market expectations for interest rate hikes next year and December. The market's now only looking for 2 hikes, one in December and one in March. And I think as we see it, we haven't seen strong signs of inflation. Wage growth 3.3%, but then productivity's picked up, so unit labor costs are quite well tamed. Housing costs are coming down, and we're starting to see some weakness in interest-sensitive areas, and CapEx surveys have come down a bit. So I think the Fed is responding to this. No central bank wants to trigger a recession in the absence of strong inflation pressures. So I think the market is justified in easing its fears over the possibility of a mistake, too much monetary tightening next year. I think that is going to provide some important support.
All right, Geoff, great speaking with you. Thanks very much for taking out the time and giving us your perspective on what to watch out for in the upcoming G20 Summit.